Good morning, everybody. I think we know this is battlefield medicine in swords and sorcery world. Please go ahead. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
All right, welcome to this panel. None of us is the moderator, so we're waking it up as we go. Good.
Yay!
Woo! Yay! So me and Lloyd are going to try and switch off this and do this good stuff. I'm Jay Boyce. I write lit RPG. I am not a medic in any sort of the term, except that I've always been chronically ill, so I've done way too much research into a lot of things. So I also just, managed to take a swan dive down the stairs earlier, so we had to put our combat medicine to work, just barely. So it's great. We're going to go. We'll start with you. JD, right?
Yes. I'm JD Raisor. I'm a best-selling author. I have books written in the 1200s. Castles and Caverns is the name of the school, and the noble families send their boys to that school, and of course they're not all friends, and there are wars and problems that take place in real life, and so medicines and those kinds of things are needed. As a historian, I use some of the history medicine methods, as well as being an author and doing more of the modern, let's have some fun and put a magic stone in there sort of thing. So I have both. We'll be talking about those as we come along.
I'm Rebecca Fincher. I publish under Rebecca Illette Fincher, author of the Gem Touch Memoirs series. I don't necessarily have a medical background, but I have always been interested in learning how to take care of injuries. So when my siblings hurt themselves, they didn't die on me. As well, I learned some apothecary skills, and I consider myself an apprentice apothecary, so I'm definitely still learning, but have some of those skills. There are battles in my books, multiple different ways they've been taking care of the wounded, whether that's traditional medicine or magical medicine. And it's just a fun topic for me. I also do LARPing, so I have some of the more battlefield-esque, this is crazy, get out of here. Or protect this person because they're down and we still gotta hold our space. So that's some of my background.
Right. I'm Scott Stevens. I write under the name of Lloyd Watson, and I am a pediatric hospitalist and pediatric palliative care physician, primarily with Indian Health Services, and also I'm a professor of medicine at Rocky Vista University, College of Osteopathic Medicine.
So he's our real professional. All right, so here's one of the things to start off with. When you're using swords and sorcery, it changes medicine a lot, because things that we would die from can be fixed a lot faster through things like apothecary and alchemy or magic. And so the first thing I want to kind of talk about is how everyone addresses the different modes of how magic changes a system. And because if you get your arm cut off, but you can just, heal it up, that's fine. But if you get your arm cut off and you have a lasting injury that's going to, stay with you for life, it changes how you affect combat and how you think about combat. So if anyone has thoughts on that.
For me, with the magic systems I have, healing magic you want to be really careful with because it can break your world. So I have a couple different healing magics in a couple different series. One of them, it works very slowly, and so somebody still might die. You just have to spend time with the magic. And if they're bleeding out, they may not make it. And in another series I've written, it's not published yet, there's only one person so far who has healing magic, and so it's a very limited resource.
For me, and start off with, I haven't played Dungeons & Dragons in over 30 years by choice, but Dungeons & Dragons broke healing because it's a heal spell, and it just magically happens.
Or 8 hours of rest.
Or 8 hours of rest,
Yeah.
Yeah. We have our arterial bleed 8 hours later, you're fine. So for me, the magic, if you're using magical healing, I like to see, okay, what are you doing? Are you speeding up recovery? Are you actually reinforcing the body? Make it make sense, not just poof, you're suddenly healed.
All right, what I've done is did some research back in history to find out how they took care of medicines. And, you know, we had to have a starting point somewhere to get our medicines. And so I researched back and I found a group of people who originally lived in the Holy Land and then moved up north because of battle, and then they escaped and set up their own country, and that didn't work. They got attacked, and then they fled out across northern Germany and Denmark and those kinds of places. And when people asked them who they were, they would not answer. They wouldn't. They refused. They knew they'd been hunted. They knew their ancestors had been beat up, and they just, nope, we're not talking about it. And so they assigned them a name. And the name from most places, speaking German, they gave them the name elf or elves. We really had, in history, people called elves. Now, what they did when they went out and they were hiding, they had to grow food. They had to do things. And one of the things they did was to find herbs and make medicines because, you know, they weren't immune from things. Okay, so there really is a group of people called elves, and they really did grow herbs and make medicines. That's quite interesting. Now, later, we have people in that area in the Anglo-Saxon invasion, and they won, and then those people who lost the Anglo-Saxon invasion went into hiding, and they were called elves. So we have two periods of elves, and the second group was really into the medicines because the new people didn't know the plants, and they could make money, and they could do well. And so we have two places in history where that happened. So my books being the 1200s on the English-Scottish border, this is the location that elves would be, this is the location that you'd have medicines. So I incorporated it into my novels. Now, to me, that makes sense as a historian, that I would take the local things and put them in my books. Okay. I also do, you know, the magical stones, that sort of thing. We'll get into that probably here in a bit.
I do think it's really important to remember that all magic should have a cost. And that's on Scott's point. Magic has to have a cost. Healing has to have a cost. If it's just free, like, hey, my mana bar is regenning, cool. There's no cost to that. Like, you don't just, like, it works in video games, but that's the only place, literally. Like, don't do, yeah, anyway. That's one of my pet peeves. As for that, when you are looking at it, though, it shapes how a society fights and how fights are approached. Because when you look at it, like, if I know, oh hey, even if I go like break my arm, then I'm gonna be healed right up and be back in battle. I'm gonna be a lot less cautious about doing reckless things than if I am like, oh hey, if I get stabbed, I'm out for the next 6 months. And like, I was actually playing a video game last night, and I was in an event where they had these warriors who went out, and as long as one person returned, everyone else got resurrected. They just had to be victorious. Like, one person returns victorious, they accomplish their goal, and they come back, and everybody gets resurrected. They treat death a lot differently than if I got sent to the front lines and I got treated as cannon fodder, and now I'm gone. Hey! So those are things you have to think about and take account for in your books when you're working on, okay, well, what kind of medicine and healing do we have available? Because that will change how a lot of society functions.
Another thing to consider is how, on the battlefield, how easy is it to access your healing magic? It used to be that they just left bodies on the field. They didn't even try to get them back to there was no such thing as a field hospital. So if not everybody has it, how do you get people back to that field hospital, or how do you get your healer to the injured people? And are people targeting the healers because we're working in Sword and Sorcery world? The Geneva Convention doesn't exist.
I think this is where you can use magic in an interesting way. You can have more traditional historical healing, but teleportation spell. I started out as an EMT. Do you know how amazing a teleport party would be as an EMT? You jump to the house, grab the person, jump straight to the hospital. 10 seconds later, they're getting the most care possible. Weird things. Preserve food spell. Well, maybe that'll preserve a leg from going bad. Prevent an injury.
Yes.
Think of using the magic, not just a blanket heal spell. Think of how you can use magic to do interesting things that allows that battlefield medicine. Like, again, if your healers are very protected, how do you get the injured? In America, the Korean War taught us how to use helicopters. And our life survival rate for our injured soldiers went up. We had the MASH units, where field surgical hospitals were close. That's all transportation. If you have a magical means of transportation, that is huge. So think about, with your magic system, is there other things than just heal that medics can use to really change how battlefields are?
And you do need to make sure that your system serves you, because the rule of cool is still a thing. One of the things to think about is if you are in a world of low medicine and healing, if your character gets hurt, well, and they're going to take 6 months to recover, are you doing a 6-month time skip? Are you having to deal with that? Because also, stuff that you get hurt with, it doesn't just go away instantly. This happened 2 hours ago, and I'm still over here like limping around and like, the pain is there. I can feel it. I am not fully focused on this. So like, that's one of those things. That's going to affect how you approach different things. I'm not going to be going up any stairs right now. So different things that you do and different medicine that's available is going to change how everything works. And it's going to change how cities, transportation is a huge part of medicine. Did you have any questions? Or does anyone have any questions right now? We're going to take questions. Go, Stuart.
In general, when it came to blood-borne diseases, and you're talking about battle where, there are, especially if you're in a swords and sorcery scenario where you've got men with swords right up in each other's faces, cutting each other, blood is everywhere. How many soldiers would just die from receiving blood-borne illnesses? Not necessarily that they got slashed, but maybe a small cut on their arm. They get splashed with the enemy's blood, and then they contract something from them.
Illnesses were very easy to spread in olden times without proper measures.
We know more people died in the Civil War after battles from infection than from the actual battle.
Spanish-American War, more people died from the rations.
Yeah. If you
So disease can play a huge role, especially if you don't have bogus magical healing where you just heal all diseases.
And you just gotta think about the technological advancements, because like if you're writing a sci-fi in the future with nanobots and these special little healing tubes, that's gonna be very different from, oh hey, the apothecary who's, half trained mixed up something. It might be a poison, or it could heal you. Who knows? So
They also used to a lot of people would dip their arrowheads in feces and other stuff to create diseases. So
Yeah.
disease is very common.
they used to hurl dead, diseased cows over castle walls to infect the entire castle.
How did they treat it though, or could they treat it?
Burn it. With fire.
Right.
If the person's still alive.
Traditionally, there are herbs that are an antiseptic and an antiseptic, so it'll help prevent disease and stop bleeding. But that's something you've got to consider is like, how well do people know herbs if they can use magic? Do they work together? I think of Wheel of Time with Nynaeve and the Aes Sedai. Like everyone looks down on Nynaeve because oh, you use your herbs, and she's like, well, now you don't have access to the source, so now I'm the only one who can heal anyone. So eat it.
So you've mentioned how, I guess, healing magic may not, probably shouldn't be like a cure-all. So I guess, and you mentioned like looping in other forms of medicine to healing. So I'm guessing, can you think of any places where it's been done well, or examples?
So he's an older author now, and a lot of the young people never read him, but Elie Modesett,
Oh, yeah.
the Order Wars series, he actually has healing on both sides. The Chaos Wizards could heal disease by seeking out the bacteria and actually like blasting it out of their blood. The Order mages strengthen the body, increase the body's capacity to heal. So that's one series that I've read. Do you guys have?
What's the name of that series?
It's the Order series. It's like 27 books now. He's a very prolific author. And has been writing since the mid-'80s. So there's a lot out there.
You stopped coming to the side.
I've been trying to think of it for like 15 minutes now. I'm like, what was it? But I remember there's a series I've read where the person doing the magic, and maybe it was even Wheel of Time, but I don't think it was, had to actually understand what they were doing when, like, what needed to happen with the wound when they were healing them, or things could go desperately wrong. So they had to have some understanding of what of the body and what it needed to heal, what the problem was, and I cannot for the life of me remember what series it was or even like who the character was.
Was it the inheritance cycle?
Yes, it was. So yes, it was the inheritance cycle.
I will also say that it's very common that, like, even if we go to a doctor, and it's one of the most frustrating things, is you have to find the right specialist for whatever you're getting, and they might not even know. I mean, you're not gonna go to a surgeon for a cold. That is, like, maybe they can try and help you, and they might have, and they're probably a little bit more knowledgeable than the general populace. But they're not necessarily what you need. And so not everyone is going to be good at the same things. I read a lot of Asian translated stuff, so it's really terrible sometimes. And like they cough blood all the time, and I'm just like, where is all this blood coming from? Okay, they've just lost lots of blood. Where did it go? And how are they still okay? Like, those are things that can really take you out of the story if they're just like, and suddenly I'm coughing blood all the time. Or, you know, that one spot where somebody's always hiding a wound on their stomach. You know, if their jacket's covering, you know they got shot there. Okay, those are things you have to think about, but like,
Just
yeah.
for the scratch.
Well, the arm's off.
You've got a punctured lung. That's why you're coughing up blood. You're not going to be moving very well.
The doctor said the bleeding was internal, and that's where it's supposed to be. When you're balancing the all-powerful magic into having something that's a cost and more reasonable, what are some of your favorite costs to healing magic that make the system more balanced, so it's not as like, this is something, so we just don't have to, we don't need doctors, we just have the healing mage, it does all the work.
They could die.
Eating. I use eating a lot. Like, my main character is a healer, and she imbibes massive amounts of food. And everyone's like, "Are you a black hole? Like, what? Where is that going?" Because that is one of her energy costs. And she basically also had to learn photosynthesis. Like, I'm gonna take the power of the sun because I can't eat enough to offset the energy that I am using. And so that's one of those things where it's like she has had to transcend human boundaries and basically become a plant so that she can power all of the massive amounts of magic she outputs. And that's one of the things.
In my book, I use that it actually, the magic item basically steals a year from you and puts it on the person so they have a year of healing. But the person that's using it is losing a year off their life every time they use it.
So it heals them then, but it takes away out of the long run?
Yep.
Equal exchange.
Similar but a little bit different. I think a Wheel of Time and an Inheritance Cycle where it's just taking your own energy. So like you're going to be tired the rest of the day if you're doing it. I think of like Stormlight Archive, where you need the Stormlight in order to heal, and once it's out, you better hope you've been healed enough or you're gonna die.
And it needs to come from both sides too.
And again, material costs. Special,
Did you get this 1,000-year-old ginseng?
yeah, the old Dungeon Dragons, again, dating me, Resurrection required a 5,000 gold piece diamond.
Still does.
Still does, okay, good.
Diamonds are forever!
Those should not just be laying around, easy to pick up. So there's a material cost. Those are the type of things that can help balance healing.
We've got a question over here. Go,
Okay.
go. Sorry, that person.
was curious about how you handle magical diseases. We're talking a lot about like physical, like real world ailments, and like just curious about the
Zombies?
Okay, so again, in my book, this is kind of a thing. I literally have a virus that basically does turn people into sentient zombies. It's fun! It's so fun! And she had to and the people of that world didn't realize that because she's transmigrated, or she's whatever, I'm losing the words. Yeah, and she reincarnated into a different world. And so she has advanced medical technology and knowledge that, if they don't have the medical technology to fix things, they can't just shove magic at it and have it work. They have to actually have knowledge of how to fix things and, what they're actually going in and doing. So she can go in on a viral level and eliminate that, but they've just had this, floating in their veins and didn't know it until then. So they're like, oh, wait, so that's why they can track us? Oh, okay. This is why you're slowly turning, because the virus is, infiltrating your veins. So that is one thing where, she's had to do that, and she's like, all right, well, we got to track this down, because this is, if this gets into your blood, it's bad. So those are different ways that I've done it, but, you have to think about, what is their cleanliness factor? Because, a lot of people, in England, in old-time England, they didn't bathe very often, and so that was one of those things that led to a lot of diseases and a lot of problems, like the bubonic plague. Small things.
When writing magical plagues, remember that all plagues, there's going to be a group of people that are resistant. The bubonic plague, there is an allele that changed RCD4, which is a white blood cell receptor. The people who had one copy of this usually survived. They were pretty sick. 2 copies of this, they were immune. That allele did not exist except in a couple little pockets in Europe until the Black Plague came through. After the Black Plague came through, they were the survivors. So it's now found in about 75% of European descent.
Natural selection.
Does the same thing basically happen to Native Americans who survived smallpox? Or
Exactly.
Natural selection.
Yep.
So
And interestingly enough, that same allele, if you have 2 copies of it, it also makes you immune to HIV. because it attacks the same receptors. So that's something you can put in with magical plagues. Why are some people resistant to it? And what does that conflict cause? Because there was whole cities that were attacked because they weren't dying from plague.
And then
You can also consider how might your magic system enhance a plague. So I've got magic that, if it's overused, will blight plants. And from rotting fruit, blighted plants, then you can then get other different bacteria and stuff that then makes people sick. And so it's just thinking about kind of like Scott was talking about, how can you use your magic creatively to not necessarily directly heal somebody, but how can you use your magic creatively to not directly make people sick, but enhance sickness.
And most diseases and illnesses and injuries are cascading problems. If I can't move around, then I can't get to this place to do that thing. Like, if that's a time-sensitive thing, that's gonna be a problem. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is that, like, if you've got a disease that's causing a fruit to die out, well, then all the animals that are eating that fruit are now in jeopardy, and all of that. Like, that's why mad cow disease was such a huge thing, was because the people were eating the cows that were sick. And so therefore, you know, there's all sorts of stuff like that. Okay, let's go to that point. Yeah, go.
I'm really interested in like the failures and pitfalls of medicinal magic and the different, because like we've touched on it a little bit, but I would love some more like ideas in the way that like makes the failure of magic more significant.
Okay, one of the failures we've talked about is not being able to get people to a place where they can have care. All right, in my novels, I came up with a solution, which is quite interesting. I've never heard this, this is purely from my head, didn't take it from anybody else. So what I have is, if your military people go in and fight a dragon and kill the dragon, you cut off the dragon's wings, you remove the brains from the dragon, you use the brains to glue the wings onto a wagon or a horse, and then the wagon or the horse is now flying. And you've saved a lot of problems. You've just solved a lot of things by doing something that's, they just kind of guessed. Let's try it.
Hey.
And,
How much trial and error is that?
A lot of medicine is trial and error. And there are also things like modern day cold medicine is not the same as it used to be. There used to be cold medicine used to be really effective because it had a specific drug in it. Now it's more of a placebo effect. But this specific drug was really good at combating colds. But if you overdosed it slightly, it killed you. And so they took it off the shelves because it is clinically proven that people who are sick do not make good decisions. And so they took that out. And so it's not nearly as effective as it used to be, because at the right level and dosage, it's great. But if you go slightly over that, it's now poison. And that is a super common thing, is that a lot of medicine is poisonous, and it's just to various amounts. And so if you're overdosing or you're abusing it, those trace amounts will build up in your, that's kind of why a lot of things are, if you overdose that drug, the drug in your body builds up tolerances and things like that. So you have to be really careful about all of those things, and that's one of the things that's a downside, or like a detractor you can add into books about like potion usage or things like that. Because that is something that happens. Your body will change over time depending on what you inject into it.
Is the opposite also true? Can it be poisonous at too low dosages, but better higher somehow?
Absolutely.
One other thing is, we like to think, and as a doctor I like to think that I'm doing the right thing. History is full of people having the wrong ideas about medicine, you could have the wrong idea about magic. If you want a really quick, fun story, look up a guy by the name of Inginus Semmelweis. Just really quickly, he noticed that the women who delivered in Vienna from the doctors died at a huge higher rate than the midwives because the doctors were doing something wrong. So you can put that into magic. They're using a magic that's healing, but they're doing it wrong because they started with the wrong premise. That's a perfectly legitimate thing that's happened all the time.
Kind of going along with what Jay was talking about, not only like your medicine stuff, consider what happens if you overuse your magic. In this world, if you overuse the magic, bad things happen. Like, there's very specific types of magic, and if you overuse the healing magic, you start getting mutations. Like, you might grow like a thumb on the back of your hand or something. Like, it's unpredictable. But consider what cost, what might be happening if you're overusing your cost for your magic, or what odd side effects your magic might have.
Yeah, because that's one of my things in my book as well. Is like when she overdraws her magic, it like starts taking the elasticity from her muscles, and she starts shriveling into a like zombie skeleton-ish figure because she is overdrawing the magic, and she's taken from her life force instead. So go for it.
Have you ever seen anything played with, sort of some real life medicinal stuff applied to magic? The thought that came to my mind was the fact that children's medicine and adult medicine has to be dealt with differently because children respond differently to surgeries and things, like they can bounce back from that, but also if you hit a kid with a dose that would help an adult, it can be too much. Have you ever seen something like that where age or other demographic factors affect magic?
The only place I've seen it is in some, for my reading, some of the more modern, is it wuxia? Am I saying that right? Wuxia? So Eastern medicine where they're using smaller doses as you grow up. That's the only time I've ever seen it. So it's a very fascinating idea.
Yeah, I haven't really seen it. I guess in children's books would probably be the most likely spot.
One thing I've seen an interesting fantasy treatment of is cancer. One thing is if you overheal someone, you might just be giving them cancer. And another one was using death magic to combat cancer.
Yeah. Because it's very similar to what we do in real life.
Can I follow that? So, speaking of cancer, I know there are also things that like make your immune system go like, what are these intruders to your own nerve endings, or like conditions that can like cause like bone spurs to grow or things to go wrong. So can you see, I guess, ways that healing magic could in fact make this much worse?
Definitely. You know, if you're thinking about just wild magic and not focus, I'm trying to remember which one said their magic system where they had to learn. If you didn't know but had a natural talent for it, it's like throwing the kindergartner into the brain surgery suite. Maybe they'll do something good, but probably not.
That also happens with a lot of like body modification magic. If I was reading one, I don't remember what it was because I read so much, but they were talking about how getting a body modification spell can be great, but it can also be super dangerous because if you don't know how you're shifting those muscles and organs, like you might do something really bad to yourself. There's one book that I really like that actually has a main character who deals with a disease that has bone spurs constantly growing, and like how he's dealt with it his entire life is he's had to have constant invasive surgeries, and he's trying to find a way to fix that, and it's called Iron Prince by Bryce O'Connor. Great book, but it's one of those things that like it deals with that, and like she was sick her entire life, which is why she knows so much about medicine. And like me, who I deal with constant chronic illness and thyroid diseases, I have done a lot of research into stuff. So like she deals with some of that, but like otherwise in that world, people were just like, oh, like we threw magic at it, but we didn't heal her, and we didn't know it was wrong, so she's just kind of never been able to have kids. Oh well. It's one of those things. Go.
How would you deal with two different types of magic trying to heal someone at the same time?
Annihilation magic. Mixing magic is
When
always
energies
bad.
mix
Yeah.
and poorly.
Well, you could do it either way, though. You could do it that, this tribalistic magic with the magic from the Empire suddenly melds into something better. That could be an entire story right there.
It's not mixing magic, but I've definitely had it where, like, oh, we're using our traditional medicine and magic, and things are working better.
That's fair.
I have an interesting problem I'm planning to put in my books, and that is, the healing goes so well, everything's fine, and sometimes you don't realize your vulnerability in life because flying your horse too high in the sky and having too little oxygen can cause a problem that nobody would have known about back then. And so I can have actually, take the healing and turn it into something beyond because they don't realize, and then they've got to discover things in life beyond the magic, kind of like what we're talking about, putting these two, it's beyond, and so that can create a new place, a new chapter in your book of how do we deal with what happened, and lots of questions.
So trial and error is a huge thing, and it will always be changing. And here's the other thing you have to think about. How is information transferred? Because if one little sage in the mountains knows how to do this great magic, that's great for him. But what about everybody else? And so like that's one of the things is like she gets to teach people, but she runs across one of these healers who's like, yeah, I can basically only heal scrapes on your arm and like surface wounds because that's all that I can't visualize what's going on inside your body, so I don't know how to fix that. So yeah, I can fix up your scrape, but did I get rid of the infection that was in it? Did I clean out your wound before I just healed that over? Or did I just kind of trap all that bacteria inside?
What are your thoughts on trauma and PTSD and healing that in combat?
So again, you have to look at your magic system. Me personally, I don't like any magic system that can directly affect the mind other than like put you to sleep. But can you have healers that use magic to repair damage, take away memories? Is that an appropriate thing to do to people? That's a huge question.
If you had magic that could heal traumatic events,
It just went away. Good job.
that means you have magic that can alter people's minds.
Right.
What happens when someone evil uses that magic to just
Take over the world.
I want more people to follow me.
Well, like, and here's the thing. My character says, blood magic is, she's like, wait, you guys don't think blood magic is evil inherently? What? Because she's like used to all of these things like, oh, hey, I think this is going to be a problem if people can just suddenly take control of your body. And that can be a problem. So,
I mean, like with the PTSD thing, we know a lot of it comes from traumatic brain injury. What if your magic can't heal brain tissue? And so that means
again,
that
I do that. She heals someone who has been through a lot of stuff, and she's like trying to rewrite his channels, but he doesn't come back the same person.
You can also, I think of the Powder Mage series, and yeah, and the magic doesn't necessarily help with mental conditions, but it's used as a drug at times. So like, hey, I just need a little bit of my powder so I can just kind of numb.
And that's an option a lot of people take. Go.
It seems like the more magic
I guess if you can heal things just almost instantly, or more you can do, the more reckless that somebody becomes. I think it's like Harry Potter and Quidditch. How reckless is that?
Yeah. Well, go back
You just
even into
regrew your
history. The Aeginar from Norse mythology. They died every day and resurrected every night to go party. They were pretty darn reckless because they knew they were doing this for eternity.
And again, I will say stuff like that. Like, again, Iron Prince was one that comes to mind. They are in a combat academy, and he is constantly getting beat down and healed. Like, that is a much different mode of mind, because you can train a lot harder if you're used to getting beat down and you're used to taking those heavy hits. And that's one of the things, they have to train their resilience so that they don't just come, like, and his pain tolerance is really high because he has bone spurs growing out of him. So that's one of those things that you take into account. Pain makes a difference.
One more?
It's kind of more of a statement, but to answer the PTS, the mental illness question. So, you know, like Professor X, Charles Xavier, X-Men?
Yeah.
So I think if there's mental magics in your magic system, it'd be more like a therapy thing. It'd be more, he's going in, he's dealing with those vendors physically. It's like lifting it or pumping it in whichever way.
Or drugging them to oblivion.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's usually a common thing, either get therapy or drugs. Or both. So, we are basically out of time. So,
No, we have 3 minutes.
we have 3 minutes. Okay. Well, I was going to let people go and say where we're going to be at the rest of the conference. So, where are you going to be?
I will be at the book signing tonight at 7.
Come buy books.
Yeah. It's like magical, just so you know. Okay. Well, and then tomorrow at noon I'll be at Elm. The panel is turning books into games and games into books.
I'll also be on that one. So hey, again, mass signing tonight at 7. Please come support authors. It's really important. I'm also going to be on 3 panels tomorrow: Lit RPG and leveling, turning books into games, and female protagonists. So 11, 12, and 3.
I'll also be at the signing, and then tomorrow I will be at Physical Exercise for Creatives. If you want to learn more about how to use your body. And Non-Crude Profanity. So if you need good swears for on the battlefield.
And I'll be at the mass book signing tonight, and then tomorrow I'm giving a presentation on funeral rites and how that flows into writing. And then another one or panel on dealing with slavery and polygamy in modern literature.
Thank you all for coming. We hope you have a wonderful day.